The body of former COPE leader Mosiuoa Lekota is on its way to his hometown of Bloemfontein in the Free State. Lekota passed away this morning after being ill for the past year. Funeral arrangements are yet to be confirmed. Let's speak now to Newzroom Afrika's Scara Mafokoane in Bloemfontein. He's live there for us. Scara, good evening to you. It will come as no surprise that Bloemfontein will be the resting place for Mr. Lekota. He was the first premier of that particular province, and tributes have certainly been coming in thick and fast from the political arena, but the people from his hometown, I'm sure they have had one or two stories to talk about him.
Absolutely, Chloe, and good afternoon to you and to our viewers. You know, you walk around the streets of Bloemfontein, you hear lovely things, and at least for those who remember him when he was premier between the years 1994 and 1996, they speak of somebody who was passionate about service delivery in the province, although he served the province for those 2 years before going to the NCOP in 1996. But, you know, Chloe, just to go back to what you said in the intro, the family, we have been in touch with them. They are on the way to Bloemfontein. You remember that Mosiuoa Lekota was born in Kroonstad, which is about 180 to about 200 kilometers from where we are. But however, he moved here to Bloemfontein, where, as I said earlier, served those 2 years as premier of the province. But see here, personal anecdotes of the kind of man, the kind of leader, the kind of activist that he was. But let me bring into the conversation somebody who served with him in the ANC's PEC in the province, who is the current premier of the Free State, Letsoha-Mathae. Thank you so much for Letsoha-Mathae. Thank you so much for the correction. Thank you so much for joining us, my premier. Your personal anecdotes, you served with Ntate Lekota in the PEC when he was the Free State Premier. What do you remember fondly about Ntate Lekota?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your viewers. Ntate Lekota was indeed an activist, a leader, but above them all, he was someone who's very outspoken. Outspoken, brave as well, and very confrontational. You know, he used to be called to a meeting, that was of the PEC, in that meeting for him to make a point, and if he doesn't get support, we'd even stand up and say, look here, this is how the organization should be run. Whether you like it or not, but he'll emphasize to a point that he'll end up convincing everyone in that meeting that he is right. So that's the kind of leader that he was. But coming to the point where he served as a premier, one thing that one can remember Ntate Lekota, Ntate Lekota was very passionate. And Ntate Lekota treated people, you know, when he was the premier here in between 94 96, he built that unity among communities. What he used to do, I traveled with him at some point. We visited an area called Clocoland where there was a dispute, and he said, you know what, when we arrive there, forget about the cap of the African National Congress. Let's go and listen to communities. And I said, but we are sent here by party. What is important is communities. You are first a member of a community before you can join any other party. So that's the legacy that I believe that we'll remember Ntate Lekota. And the other part of Ntate Lekota is the manner in which he operated. Yes, you see a jolly person, sometimes he'll be laughing, that loud laughter. But when he wants to deal with issues now, trying to convince others, then you'll see that terror in him, because he'll be so serious to a point where you feel threatened that somebody says, no, man, you know, this one cannot be done this way, man. This is an organization. These are the people who voted us. So in my ears, there's that tone, you know, from Ntate Lekota, how he used to present himself. Those who know him, they'll remember that voice, that small voice, but that was very, very powerful.
He then served in the national leadership of the ANC. He served in the NCOP. He was a former defense minister. But let's bring it back home here in the Free State. How would you like his memory to be remembered here in the province, at least towards the funeral, events perhaps that your office or the provincial government would be organizing to remember the life and time of Ntate Lekota?
Obviously, we're going to have a memorial service. Ntate Lekota was the first premier of the Free State. And in honor of his name, my belief is that this memorial service should actually be taken to Kroonstad, where he was born. And this happens when the very same provincial government has planned activities on Friday in Kroonstad, where we are taking integrated service delivery. We are taking it to Kroonstad people. So without hesitation, we'll have to have activities within the province where we'll honor Ntate Lekota. Ntate Lekota played a major role in our lives, and Ntate Lekota contributed positively to the freedom that we're enjoying today. So despite the political party that he joined lately, but his contribution in the building and the renewal, even the freedom of our people, really, it's something that we can talk about and honor in his name.
As somebody who assumed an office which he once occupied, yes, back 1994 to 1996, as somebody who occupied an office that he once occupied, what are some of the things that, in terms of leadership, that you would say this one is, I maybe have taken from the leadership style of Ntate Lekota in this province?
Ntate Lekota was firm. And in decision-making, he was one leader that you can rely on. And where we are today, it's a pity that at some point he had to join another party. But wherever you meet in Ntate Lekota, whether it's at the airport, you can hear somebody who's still passionate about this province of the Free State. He'll always ask, Manaka, what's happening in the Free State? How are you doing in the Free State? That's Ntate Lekota. And I could sense even from the questions that you always ask me where every time I meet Ntate Lekota, those questions were saying to me that his heart is still with the ANC, because he also had this interest of just knowing how is the organization doing in the process. And I would say, Ntate Lekota, you are no longer a member of the ANC. Why are you so interested in it? He said, no, you know, was coming from that organization. So I could see a person who still loves the ANC from the heart, even if he declared that he joined the other party, but his interest was always there, that he just wanted to understand, no, but you left us, you could have remained so that we build together. But that's Ntate Lekota, really. He was a father, he was an activist, he was a leader, he was a husband, he was a grandfather to some of us. So his political affiliation really did not affect how we relate with Ntate Lekota.
Mosiuoa, thank you so much for your time. She is the Premier of the Free State, sharing some personal anecdotes of the moments that she shared with Ntate Lekota as we wait for the family to arrive here in Bloemfontein, Xoli, and we will give you an update when they are nearer and when they are, or rather when they're closer to arriving here in Bloemfontein, where he will be laid to rest at a date that is yet to be confirmed by the family and the province here in Free State, Xoli.
Scara Mafokoane live for us in the Free State province, the home province of Ntate Mosiuoa Lekota. A straight talker he was, and just based on that conversation, you remind me of some of the anecdotes that have been shared throughout the day. Mosiuoa Lekota, he held nothing back when he felt strongly about a particular subject. Well, no doubt here on the channel, we are going to be reflecting on the life and times of Mosiuoa Lekota. We'll be talking to some of his former cabinet ministers. Remember, he served in the Thabo Mbeki cabinet for a very long time, and we'll talk about those. All right, so